Welcome to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for joining in. It is a bright and glorious day, no matter where you're at, what the outlook is, what the sun is doing outdoors. If you have the Son of the living God in your heart, it is a bright and glorious day. I am Tamara Scott. We thank you for listening in as we help you live God's word in today's world, helping you when the headlines hit home. Here's why: because if God expects you to live through it, he's directed you how to do it. So we have several things to touch base on today, and I need to thank first, before I forget and get busy, Ryan, my producer, Sir Ryan, who sits behind the glass and makes everything happen, even out of order when I just throw it at him quickly. Thank you for that. Also the designer of the website, tamarascott.com, where you can go on and get links to the show, past broadcasts, past interviews that we've done. Why? Not because we wanted to promote us. That was hard for me to even put my name on that website. But that's a name folks apparently remember when I go and speak to these groups across the nation. And the guests that we have on this show are so incredible. I'm so honored that God allows us to hear from such wonderful people, experts to everyday, ordinary people who are making a difference in their communities or on a national scale or on a global scale sometimes. So I'm very thankful that God allows us to do that and that we can bring them to you. I also want to thank our sponsor, Christians for America, christiansforamerica.com. We thank them. Crave Revival, Christians reviving American values every day. So thankful for them and the partnership with us. And if you ever want to help this show, you can work with them in partnership for sponsoring the show, or webcast1live.com. We are very thankful for our partnership with J. Maka McCoy, and the Webcast One Live studios. Also the 99.3 FM radio station that allows us to re-air this show on Sundays at noon. And I'm hearing back from some of you, or hearing through other people who are hearing from you. You've heard the show. Thank you. Thank you for the comments. I appreciate it. Thank you, 99.3, for making it accessible right here in Central Iowa. Otherwise, these wonderful guests you often miss. So if you want to hear the show live, join us each Wednesday at 10 a.m. webcast1live.com. Wednesday, 10 a.m., webcast1live.com. And I'm even having folks who apparently can listen while they're on the job. They can be online, or they can at least do the audio. Thank you for tuning in, and thank your bosses for allowing to tune in as well. And why wouldn't they? The great information you get will certainly make you better employees as well, well-rounded citizens, and wanting to do the right thing for your communities. So why wouldn't they, right? But also those of you who are listening on noon on Sundays. And I want to come back to Christians for America, Don Swarthout, Pastor Don Swarthout. If you see Don, when you pull up at a stoplight, you're just going to see this nice little man over there, and you're not going to think anything about him. But years ago, he wrote this tiny little book. It's great to put in the pocket of your shirt. It's what I call those pocket guides to difficult and impressive information. He has a guide on what the ACLU's war with America. It's a great pocket guide, and he just bullet point goes through the different cases and the costs that we have paid as taxpayers against the ACLU, often, usually, in a majority of situations, fighting us on the things we believe in, the things we hold dear, the very foundational principles of our great republic. And here we are having to pay their fees as they take away our rights and our liberties. And that's what's happening right now in Knoxville. And I believe we have Doug Goff on the line. Doug?
Hi, Tamara. How are you doing
I
today?
am well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us along this path, keeping us abreast of the situation. What was the date we had the rally in Knoxville?
I can't even remember now. You threw a curveball at me.
I know, right? Because here's the deal. Al Larson, this unassuming, sweet, kind man, I don't know him, but just from what I've seen on the media and what I saw in person that day, just seems like a quiet, unassuming man who wanted to honor a friend. He was shot as a soldier in Vietnam. His friend was then fatally shot the next day. So is it out of wood that this memorial, or is it metal?
It is wood. It's just a piece of plywood that he cut in his garage to honor his fallen friend.
Yeah, it's just the silhouette of a soldier kneeling and a cross. And all in all, would you say it's what, 4 or 5 feet long? And
Yeah, about 4 feet long,
Yeah.
probably.
And how tall?
Probably, I don't know, actually.
4 feet, maybe.
3-4 feet.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So it's this is the huge cumbersome memorial that has offended someone.
The offensive cross that hurt this one individual's feelings.
Yeah, and we don't know who that in America I thought we could face our accuser and we could hear the accused, but that's not the case.
And my thought process is if you have the courage to report this if you call it courage, whatever you want to call it, if you have that to report it, you should at least show your face. I mean, if you want to speak out, but be available, because we want to know. We want to know why you feel this way and why this object is so offensive to you. But he's so ashamed of what he did that he hides his face.
And first off, it's probably not even a citizen of your community because you have the Nationals, the Knoxville National sprint car races. The assumption is it's probably somebody from out of town.
More than most likely, because no one had a problem with it. It sat there for probably 7, 8 months, and no one had an issue. And then the Knoxville Nationals came through, and as you know, we have people from all over the world coming to that event. And
so someone raises a stink, and within a short order, I'm telling you, this is why you don't remember the date, and I don't remember the date, because it was like 48 hours, I think. You threw a rally together, and in that short time, okay, I do remember, because the Planned Parenthood rally, which was a planned rally, and on a 50,000 watt clear channel station that was promoted for weeks, that was the Saturday before. So, So 1 week later, so I think that was August 15th maybe, or August 19th, whatever the Saturday was. 1 week later was your event thrown together, I don't know, in days, just days. And so I, made my schedule so I could come because you're only an hour from Des Moines, and I wanted to be there to support this cause and the people of Knoxville as well. And I was so impressed. You had veterans, you had Harley riders, you had the Patriot riders in their leather, you had homeschooling folks, you had people dressed as if they'd just come from church, you had people there in their jeans out for a picnic type, you had all kinds. You had diversity, which is that key word we always hear from the left, coming together in unity in support for this memorial.
Exactly. And it was just, you saw it. It was a beautiful sight coming into town. The crosses were up. The flags were up. I mean, we had that 6-foot cross hanging from I don't want to say a crane. I can't remember. It was like a giant forklift or something.
It was, right.
And we had that huge cross hanging right across the street from the memorial. And it was just, it's a touching sight to see. And we organized it in about 48 hours is all the time we had for it.
And we also had a man who flew in from Liberty Institute offering to fight this pro bono, offer his services to you free to fight this. Okay. And it was such a move. It was just so moving. I mean, I get goosebumps when I talk about it. I drove through your city that day, and I was so impressed with the numbers of crosses in people's lawns. On people's lawns, they are taking up the cross. They are taking up the cause, and now crosses are all over.
Yep.
Knoxville.
And my group put out 2,000 crosses, but there were groups in other towns doing the same thing to show their support. It's truly, you can drive around other towns and see it, so it's not just a Knoxville issue, and that's what I loved about it. Everyone's coming together to unite for this amazing cause.
And you're right. It's not just a Knoxville issue. And when this takes place, if people back down, what happens is it emboldens those who then come to attack even more. We have a situation of a resident now being attacked in another community for a cross that's been on his lawn for years. And all of a sudden now it's a problem too. So this is why we have to stand. We have to stand. We can thank our God that we're not having to fight with blood and weapons right now. We can still fight this with words and legislation and court decisions, supposedly. But we must stand. This is our issue. This is our First Amendment right that people gave their lives to give us with our Constitution. So Fast forward, Monday night, your city council, even after this outcry of public support, even after the offer for free legal counsel, made an underhanded decision the day before an election, and they did what?
In a 3-2 decision, our city council decided Monday night to take the silhouette down. The news is reporting that they voted to place it on private ground. That is not true. They voted to take it down. It was the AMVET's decision to place it on private property.
And I'm disappointed even with the AMVETs. You know, the people who fought physically. I just don't think they understand the impact. Like I said, now other people are being emboldened and going after residents and what they display on their private property in neighborhood associations. So I'm disappointed with that decision. You do not have to concede. You must not try to appease the enemy. It will never work. They will never say that's good enough, thank you. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. And folks, think this through. I've said it before. The Arlington Cemetery crosses all through it. They did not deed land to be private underneath each tombstone with a cross or memorial with a cross. It is not necessary. It has been part of our beginning, our founding fathers, from our first president all the way through. Many presidents have understood our role and our reliance. And if you read the Declaration of Independence, God, not all of them, not the false ones as well, but the one true God is mentioned 4 different times in our Declaration of Independence. We didn't have to have an ecumenical display of several gods in that document. It was our founding document, our Declaration of Independence, and the one true God is mentioned 4 different times. And so this is totally unnecessary. It will not help. It will make it worse. And so the next day was Election Day, and you, Goff, what took place?
What took place was the Knoxville community came together in an amazing fashion. 2 of the 3 that voted to remove the silhouette were up for re-election, and we defeated them. We just destroyed them. We came together as a community. Our lowest vote getter was 200 votes higher than their highest vote getter. So Knoxville came together and elected 3, because there were two seats that were contested and 1 that was open. So we came together and we elected 3 individuals that will stand for this community, stand for our veterans, stand for our Christians, and unite behind this cause. And they've been with us through this whole thing, and they're amazing men that I know in my heart know what they're going to do. And what they're going to do is they're going to fight for this community, and I'm so proud of these guys. And today is a glorious and amazing day that we can celebrate, because we may not have won the battle yet, but we're definitely on the right track to winning.
You at least have the guts and the courage to fight now. And here's the deal. This is a Winston Churchill quote. I'm going to paraphrase it. And frankly, I like my paraphrase almost even better, although he was so eloquent. But here's what he basically said. If you refuse to fight when you have every possibility of winning, you will someday fight with no possibility of winning, because death will be no worse.
Exactly.
Think that through. That's where we are coming to in this nation. So I'm very proud. And you say the lowest vote getter of your team, the folks who will preserve a memorial, who at least fight to preserve our First Amendment liberties, got 200 votes more than those who voted to cave.
Yep.
I love that.
I do too. Their highest vote getter was only 400 and some votes, and we were almost 200 higher than she was. And the funny thing is they refused to talk to the media afterward. They said no comment, and they stormed out. They were overconfident, they were cocky, and they were sure they had this in the bag.
So, folks, continue to listen to Webcast One Live, to Truth for Our Time with Tamara Scott and shows like that, because you're not getting the truth in the media. The media said the night before, that Monday night, they said the controversy has been settled. I knew my heart the controversy had not been settled. And so the citizens of Knoxville, my hat's off to you. You proved it the next day. And I honestly don't know where these folks stand on a lot of issues. But if you're not going to support the First Amendment issue, your first Bill of Rights, that is a bellwether issue, and you are a menace to liberty, and that I hate. That I am so sorry. But Doug, thank you. You were willing. You even allowed your name to be on a write-in campaign. You were not successful in that, but thank you for your service and your willingness. I appreciate the battle and what you have done here.
Definitely. Thank you for all of your support.
You are very welcome. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned to Truth for Our Time, helping you live God's Word in today's world.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah!
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for tuning in for Truth for Our Time, helping you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. And again, let me reiterate, I appreciate all of those who have served on the city council in Knoxville, all of those who are willing to serve, but when you refuse to uphold the very first amendment of the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, freedom of religion, and when you fail to understand even more this country's Christian heritage, read the Declaration of Independence, then that's a great concern and must be dealt with. So thanks to all for their service, but thank you to Knoxville for making a stand and refusing to bow. And I'm so disappointed with those who are going to refuse to fight when they had legal counsel and, as Doug told me, donations that were ready to come in from across the nation. People understand this is the line in the sand. This is the pivot. Ronald Reagan said it. We're either one nation under God or we will be a nation gone under. So my thanks to those people in Knoxville. I've always loved your grit since I became very familiar with you in 2000 when I ran as your candidate against a House Minority Leader. Thank you so much for your grit, your courage, your guts. Appreciate it. Because of you, we might have a chance in this nation as others will stand strong as well. Joining me is another who you will recognize the name. She's a national speaker. She is a fighter. Her name is Leslee Unruh. I have followed her for years. I have followed her work. I followed her articles that she's written. And her work, she founded the Abstinence Clearinghouse in 1996, and I think I started radio in 1998. I know I was pulling statistics and information off that site from 98 on. So I'm so pleased now to get to meet one of those giants, one of those heroes that I have followed for years. Leslee Unruh, thank you for joining me today.
Well, it is great to be with you.
So we had the opportunity to meet face-to-face last Friday, the Child Protection League Action, another group that is just going to be phenomenal in helping to correct the issues of our day and protect children, had an event in Minnesota. I was impressed with that event. One, I love Dr. Judith Reisman, another resource. I've been so blessed to interview her over the years. Dr. Gina Loudon, and let me just hold up my books. For those of you who are watching live at the 10 o'clock viewing on Wednesday on webcast1live.com, here's the video. The book, First, we'll do Dr. Judith Reisman, Stolen Honor, Stolen Innocence. That's her book, newest book out right now. She discovers she is the one who worked on the Alfred Kinsey fiasco. Some called him a scientist. We know he was a pedophile and a child molester. The other one, What Women Really Want. What Women Really Want. And this is Dr. Gina Loudon. And I have to just show this. I don't know if you can get it, Ryan. I don't know if you can come in on that or not. You can see the handwriting there on the front page. Gina Loudon, she wrote, a personal friend of mine, a personal hero of mine. Thank you for all you do for freedom. Stay brave. I was like so moved by that. We were in, Leslee, Unruh, when I meet you then, we are like, this is like the powerhouse. I was just like so excited to be there. I was like the kid jumping up and down trying to peep over the shoulders of the heroes.
Well, you are doing your part, and we are really grateful for that.
So you started the Abstinence Clearinghouse in 1996. I know I have pulled information off your site since 1998.
We've been out there. We were actually started in 1984 with a group of moms that we crisscrossed the country, speaking to parents to empower them to go to their schools and find out what's really being taught. And we were at that time called Alliance for Chastity Educators, and believe it or not, I had a television show, Should Chastity Be Relevant in the 80s? And of course that word became old and we couldn't use it anymore. And the history behind it is, Judith Reisman and others who taught many, and I'm one, to stand up and to not be an appeaser. And I loved it in the show that you had previous that I was listening to you quoted Winston Churchill, and I love one of his sayings too, is that an appeaser won't oppose a man-eating crocodile in hopes that the crocodile will eat him last. Mm-hmm. And I think, that's where we get. And just this morning I was talking to a mother who said to me, a letter came home with my child and, asked me for my permission to sign it because they're starting their sex ed series. And I said, how old is your child? And she said, first grade.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, so you just signed the letter and sent it back? And she said, should I not have? Should I not trust them? And I said, I think you need to go to the school and ask them to give you the books of what they're going to be teaching your child. And I didn't get back to my car until I got a call from her saying, I cannot believe this.
Right.
I live in South Dakota, she said. How can this happen? How can this be happening to my child? And that's what I love about you is you're out there and you're saying, okay, wake up, people. This is what's happening in our country. We're just giving over our children.
I know.
And letting these people just teach this information that is taking these children down a whole other realm. And, it's very clear. The Bible says to not awaken before their time and to let them keep their innocence as long as they possibly can. And parents are responsible to guard that innocence. And, just looking at it from the scientific perspective, it's a latency time. Innocence and modesty, it's important. And moms, I said to Judith, we've always said, parents should be the primary sex educators of their children. And she looked at me kind of sternly, and she said, Leslee, we're at a new point. Parents should be the only educators of their children.
That is right.
And that's come about, Tamara, because many of the absence until marriage educators went to just abstinence word. And then what does that mean? They have redefined out there because abstinence was funded by our government. And I was a part of that at one time. And I've had to walk away from that because of a new term called sexual risk avoidance. And like Judith said, what does that mean? We're teaching avoidance. That means today I'm going to avoid chocolate cake, but maybe next week I'll have chocolate cake. And we have to be careful with the words that we use. And I think that's the part where we educate Christian parents, because way back when it was the pro-life issue, is we were called anti-abortion, they were called pro-choice. So the name of the game is the name. And that's what I love about you. You are educating people to really look deeper. And so just because somebody shows up in your town and said, I'm an abstinence educator, maybe you should be the one educating your own child.
Absolutely. People forget God, the God who created you, who created your children, did so and uniquely fashioned you. You are their advocate, their teacher, their trainer, their disciplinarian. That is you. And never forsake or underestimate what you can do. And never think that there's experts out there who can do it better. You are the one God designed, and He will equip for the call He has given.
That's exactly right. I love the story of Corrie ten Boom. She talks about when she was on the train with her father, and her father was very uncomfortable with a question that she asked, that she'd overheard the word sex. And she said, "Father, what is that?" And his father was pondering, and he was going to tell her, well, it's a marital act, and then he figured she'd ask more questions, and because, of course, that is what it was. It was not even in the dictionary, because it was, sex was, male or female. And so when the train stopped, Corrie ran and was running in for the trunk. Her father said, "Now, Corrie, I want you to pick up the trunk." And she said, "I can't, Father. It's too heavy." And when she looked up into her father's eyes, he said, and daughter, and so is the subject of sex. Another day. And your mother and I will talk to you. And he took the responsibility, and she was like, okay, and ran along and was fine. And I think so often now we bombard our kids with movies and their friends and everything that's out there, and so we think we have to give them all of this information. But now we have seen the studies and the science behind too much information too soon and awakening before their time. It's biblical. You're not supposed to heap all this information on a child's innocence. And the parent is supposed to be the protector of that child. And so I am, my clarion call today is, parents, watch what your children are watching. Look at what your children are getting at school. And maybe you need a day where you opt them out, you do a fun day, and then you talk to your child. You're the expert. And, that's where the Abstinence Clearinghouse comes into play. We can help parents to celebrate their child, and to we do the God, Mom, and Me teas, where people can have a little tea party, and the moms talk privately, but they have a little celebration of being a girl. There's father-son time out, where the dad takes the young man, or the mom takes the young man to where we call the night to remember, and it's an actual ball, and it's dancing, and it's wonderful, and we have people give testimonies, and of course the purity balls, or the dad's taking the daughters and talking to them, and we challenge the dads to be faithful to their mothers, and to also take that covenant, and they stand at the cross, and they make that covenant. And over the years, we've been keeping track, and it was so fun for me, too, the other night, because I met a young woman who I had not seen since I was speaking at a purity ball in Minneapolis many years ago, and she walked up to me and she said, I have children, and now I am teaching them the way I was taught. My mother had me out of wedlock. She wasn't married. And she broke those chains, she changed it, and she raised the bar. And that's what we do at the National Abstinence Clearinghouse, is we raise the bar, and we teach them that no is a love word, and we do it through fun. And, I know our meeting the other night, because we were looking at all the bad and saying, oh, it's so heavy, it's so heavy. And so much of the time it's so heavy. But I'm here to tell you good news, because we know that even in our pregnancy center, the Alpha Center, where many years ago that I started, I would see the negative test, and then the next month I would say, well, why are we seeing these girls back again? So I'm challenging in pregnancy centers across the country that we do sexual integrity counseling, and we get them to raise the bar, and we believe in them. And I have the stats, I have the pictures, I have the wedding pictures to prove that just because they had sex at one time, they don't have to continue in that lifestyle. They can change.
There are so many things you're saying here that are powerful nuggets, and folks out there listening, I hope that, one, you can come back and listen to this. We have it at TamaraScott.com, or we will shortly, available for you. First off, Leslee said she started the group with some other moms. Don't underestimate what you can do in your community. Don't wait for the experts to do it. And Leslee, since the experts have taken over sex ed, our kids don't even know now what sex they are.
Exactly. I was with a man at World Congress of Families recently, Walt Heyer, and he has a website. It's sexchangeregrets.com.
Yes.
And he talks about what happened to him as a child. And I was sitting there, and, you and I have been to a lot of things, and we've heard a lot of speakers, but I was riveted to hear how dangerous it is. And because I've seen it with my own grandchildren, where you really do have to have a heads up and know, because our culture is sexualizing our children. And I was amazed at what he said, how there's danger zones that parents have to realize, dressing your child up like a girl, putting makeup on your little boy, all these types of things, which happened to him as a child. His grandmother put him in a dress. And he talks about how painful that was.
We'll come back with more information. I'm talking with Leslee Unruh, LesleeUnruh, LesleeUnruh.com. This is Tamara Scott with Truth for Our Time. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages, helping you when the headlines hit home.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing. We have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And thank you for staying tuned. We're talking with Leslee Unruh, LesleeUnruh, LesleeUnruh.com. You can find her information there. I have to touch on one thing from a previous show. Jane Robbins, who warned you, Dr. Karen Ephraim, who warned you about the No Child Left Behind reauthorization and the ESEA bills. Those, Jane just sent me an email. They are both up still. Please call 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. put that phone number in your phone contacts or on your fridge, wherever you have your handy numbers. That's the switchboard that will get you to any U.S. Senator or U.S. Congressional member, and you can call them and tell them, please, no, do not reauthorize No Child Left Behind or the ESEA, H.R. 5, any of those. No, they're not good for our children. And which carries into what we're talking about today, what is good and not good for our children. Leslee Unruh has been in this battle for quite some time. She noticed it when her kids came home from school. That's what brought me into. I've had reporters ask me why I got involved. It wasn't like I was looking for something to do. I had 4 children at home. I was quite happy. I wanted to stay home and raise my kids. The government kept getting in my way, and the school kept poisoning my children's minds. If I would say the things to my children as a stranger in the park that teachers were saying in the classroom, I would have been arrested and should have been. We're talking about the sex ed that's taking place, and if you think it's not happening in your school, public school, and somewhat, unfortunately, Christian schools, you need to check it out. Ladies, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to call you out. You would not put your wedding ring in the hand of a stranger at the mall. Why do you leave your children with a stranger you hardly know in the classroom for hours a day, months out of the year? Think that through. Think it through. And if God is talking to you at all during this interview, if you're angry when you hear me say that, or if you're wanting to do this but the spouse isn't with you, discuss it. It is time. Leslee, you brought up Walt. Walt has a great article that talks about what you should know, what parents of transgender children should know. Walt is the one, correct me if I'm wrong, who did the transgender from a male to female and then back female to male because it did not solve the problems. It added to more problems. And his point is there are underlying issues. This should not be what we're telling our kids to do. There are other issues that need to be addressed.
That's correct. I was riveted, like I said, when I heard him. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. And so many parents walked up to me very, very in this field and worked and like I do in this for years and had heard things they had never heard before. And he shared about parents be very, very careful who you place your child in the care of, and because not everybody means to. They're just really naive with some of the information. Right. Just teachers saying kids are sexual from birth because of the Kinsey, which was Alfred Kinsey, who did all this horrible things to children, and their schools are still following some of those things that they taught that are so outdated and so harmful to children. And so I love when you give that analogy of the wedding ring, because that is so important. And when Walt said to me privately, we sat and we talked, he said, just look through the magazines. And on my way home, flying home, I bought some magazines and I watched very carefully of what I was seeing of how they are sexualizing children. And I was like shocked at things that I feel very like I know and I watch for. And I had no idea that this is an all-out war on our children. And parents have to be bold and have to stand up and fight. And I was talking with one mom. She said, I got the information, like you said, and then I started looking through it, and I was horrified, and I got other mothers. And she said, we went to our school board, and they had all these people there that had all these degrees, and they intimidated us. They made us feel bad. And she said, and I stood up, and I said, well, you may have introduced me just now as just a mom, but this just a mom, let me tell you, if I don't do my job right as a mother, it doesn't much matter what the rest of the world does.
That is right.
And she went on to say, I had some degrees, but I chose to stay home during those years, and I'm glad I did. I may have missed it. And I know for myself, I was sending my children to a Christian school, and it happened to me. My child came home, and he did not want to go to school the next day. And he was very upset, and he said he felt sick, and I didn't know what to do. And I got to in his little mind to find out what was wrong, and he told me, Mommy, I don't want to look at those things. I don't want to hear those things. And here a Christian teacher naively had gone to some training, and at that time it was Concordia. And She had violated him. He was acting sick, like as if he had been molested. And now Judith Reisman has said with all the research, that's a flashpoint. And to this day, he's almost 40 years old now. And he says, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was traumatic.
We've done studies when kids are too young and they see these images, the pornography changes the brain, the chemical. You were at the World Congress of Families, so you were with Dr.
Yes.
Janice Krause, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes.
No stranger to this show, has been a guest often, and she can tell you that pornography changes the chemical makeup of the brain,
Yes.
especially the younger they see it. Don't kid yourself, folks. The left knows this. The left that has infiltrated the school system knows this. Your kids are at risk. You talked about the sexualization of our kids. Look at the commercials, fast food. I think Hardee's is some of the worst. I wrote an article probably 6 or 7 years ago on the Halloween costumes, whether you let your kid do that or not. The costumes had been sexualized. I called it pimping Halloween. They literally had pimp costumes. So
I saw a little girl and her mom in the store, and just a young mom, and she had all this garb on and her makeup and all made up, and this lady sitting behind me said, "Oh my goodness, look at her." And the mom was just rushing through, and I just put my hand around the mom, just a little comfort her, and I said, "Don't be mad at me, but look at her. Take a long, hard look. Is this really what you want?"
Right.
And she looked at me and said, "You're right. No, I don't want this. Thank you for saying that to me."
Oh.
And sometimes it's just a simple little love gesture of just asking the question to stop. And because we get sucked into this whole culture.
You said it kindly. You said it in love, but thankfully she received it in love as well.
Right. Yeah. And if she wouldn't have, that still doesn't mean I should stop saying it.
Right.
And, obviously I've been called in my life to raise that bar and keep talking about it. And you obviously have, and you do an amazing job, and you're just really doing so much. And that's what we need, and we do not need to back up. This is the time to go forward and be bold. And when we do go forward and when we are bold, and I've seen, because I've actually gone as far as to say, if a child is violated by a sex ed program, then there are lawyers out there that will take your case free of charge.
Absolutely.
And you can take it all the way. And I've done that in my own state. We passed that they mandated to teach abstinence education way back when. But now, of course, they've taken the language, and so we have to go back in now and say, you know what? Let's, in the higher grades, how about we do programs for parents so you know what you're getting? And so we've done that. But we've also seen, we've won in the 8th Circuit Court with the abortion issue. We've won 6 times. We're on our way within the next 3 years. Our pregnancy center will be, because we intervened with a lawsuit that Planned Parenthood sued the state of South Dakota, because again, a bunch of moms got together. We took ladies who had had abortions to tell their stories to the legislature, and we changed the laws in South Dakota. There's only one abortion clinic left in South Dakota that's owned by Minnesota, and the last woman doctor to do abortions in South Dakota, Patty Giebink, is now a Christian and on my board of directors.
Oh, my goodness.
And we have won because, and we've loved her. We loved her at the time. To bring her out of there, and we're winning. And it's exciting to win. I'm finally winning, and I love it.
We've got to go to one more break. I hope you can stay with us for just a few minutes afterwards. I want to talk about what's happening with your recent Planned Parenthood issue in South Dakota. You are a leader in this. So stay tuned, folks. We'll come right back and give you the latest update on that and what we can do here.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to Truth for Our Time with your host, Tamara Scott.
And I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for staying tuned. We're talking with Leslee Unruh. You can find more information at abstinence.net, abstinence.net. Great information, conversation, and hear what she's saying. Several times with a group of moms, they've made a huge difference. And moms, it is up to us. The battle line has been drawn, and it's right over our cradle. It is time for us to get involved. Leslee, I know that I'm reading an article from the South Dakota, the Washington Times, but South Dakota lawmakers asked Supreme Court to reconsider Roe, Doe abortion rulings. For folks listening, the Roe, Doe cases are the Roe v. Wade and it was Doe v. Who was it? Doe v. Bolton. Yeah. So in this, I love one of these paragraphs, and we have just a couple minutes left, but I love one of these paragraphs that it is impossible, how did they say it? Right and duty to preserve life cannot coexist with the right and duty to destroy it. And long ago, our law was required to choose life over death. Mm-hmm. Explain what's going on here. What is this that we might be able to repeat in our states?
Well, we are in the 8th Circuit, and so anybody that is in that 8th Circuit, when you take laws and you change them. We've already passed 6 laws, and there's one more now in the hopper that we're waiting that will have a court trial this summer. And this is the very one that will probably be the one that goes to the Supreme Court. We've already gone to the Supreme Court and taken our resolution, the concurrent resolution that we also have if people want that. And what we did is the legislature went and they voted to really study with a task force abortion and how it affects women. And one of those justices said that if they ever found that abortion hurts women, that they would have ruled and they would vote differently. And so what we did is we took these studies and we took women's testimonies and men and anybody connected to an abortion, and we said, okay, fast forward, this is what's been happening in the last 40-some years, how women's lives have been damaged because of abortion. And we talked about the suicide rates. We talked about all the things that have affected women. And so we took the women first, and we took their stories. And I will tell you, it has been so heartwarming to see these women that really sacrificed a lot. There was one woman who, when she went to the legislature to testify for me, her boss told her that if you leave and don't come to your job, you will not have a job when you get back. And she said, well, I took the life of 2 of my children. I was pressured. I was coerced to do that. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to stand for my child.
Wow. I can't imagine a boss saying that in the first place, but my goodness. And you know what I think it is? I think it's conviction. I think this is it's not just an emotional issue. This issue convicts people all over the gamut.
And what ended up happening is that morning, and I get kind of choked up when I think of this woman, there was a snowstorm in South Dakota that day. And that woman got up early and drove and didn't have enough money to stay in a motel and too prideful to ask me for help. Stayed in her car, got up, stood there with a cardboard that she had ripped off a box and put a magic marker on there. I cannot hold my 2 children, so I'm holding this sign. Please vote.
Wow.
For these babies and for women like me. And, it was snowing, and as that snow hit that sign, it almost looked like tears on the sign. And we'll never forget this woman who sacrificed her job. She sacrificed everything to come and tell her story of how she had been coerced, pressured to have an abortion. And that's what we're finding out, and that's what our last law is. Before you can have an abortion in South Dakota, you first have to be assessed by a pregnancy center that's registered by the state to see if you are being coerced and pressured to have that abortion. And the stats are staggering of how many of these women are pressured. One woman testified in the legislature and said her husband held a gun to her head and made her go and have several abortions. And so these women's stories have been told, and now we're just waiting and going to go through the lawsuit. We've got amazing lawyers, and we've been winning. And I think, for myself, there were so many years I went to my legislature, and we lost. And that's why I started feeling like Wilberforce. But when we started winning, we won 6 times. And we won in the 8th Circuit Court. And when 11 judges decide to look at your case and pass it, and it starts to shut down the numbers of babies that they are taking the life of. They were taking the life of a kindergarten class every single week in my city at that time, way back. And now they struggle to even fly in their doctors because no doctor in South Dakota will do abortions.
At that time, and what time was that?
When we first started, it's been 8 years now.
8 years. They were taking a kindergarten size of a kindergarten class every.
Yes.
Did you say
every week?
Every week.
Every week.
Oh my goodness.
And I would sometimes think, everybody stands and prays, and we need to do that, and we'd walk back and forth in front of those clinics and let people know we didn't like it. But if it was you and I, Tamara, and we were inside there, and our life is about getting ready to be taken, wouldn't we want somebody to do everything they can?
Right.
And that's what it means when I say I'm just a mom. I'm a grandma. And I held one of my grandchildren recently, and I looked into her little precious eyes, and I promised her that I was going to fight as a grandmother. And so I'm not just asking moms. I'm asking grandmas. You've got the time. You can get a bunch of ladies together and have cookies and coffee and get educated, and you can go to your legislatures, and you can change the laws.
And we can teach you how. Right here in Iowa, Concerned Women for America has a lobby, Learn to Lobby pamphlet, a brochure. You can go online and find it right now under resources and click on brochures. How to lobby from your laptop, how to lobby from your kitchen table. Plus, we'll meet you there. We'll take you through the State House when the legislature's not in session, so you're comfortable, and we'll take you back when they're there. We would love to do that with you, and you can contact me to get a hold of the Concerned Women for America group here in Iowa. Leslie, we are out of time. Thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Thank you. I wish everybody I did an interview with was empowered like you are, Tamara. You are making a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is so fun to get to be around women of steel like we were the other night. It was an incredible group, powerhouse women who are doing, and here's what I'm hearing. All of the women I know in that group, none of us were out there looking for a way to make a career. We got drug into it.
That's right.
We were just obedient when the assault came. We were obedient in protecting our children and standing on the Word of God.
Yeah.
Leslee Unruh has been my guest. You can find her at Leslee, SELESLEEUNRUH.com or abstinence.net. You can find her there as well. And a couple things as we go out the door. The Iowa Renewal Project is here this week. So if those of you who are online, you can still get to go. The number is 800-921-1928. 800-921-1928. That is the David Lane group that's been responsible for so many prayer responses across the nation and getting pastors to understand the need for Christians to run for office. We'll have more when we come back next week. We'll have more information to give you on other issues and things facing our nation as we help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. But I hope that you will take a look at your kids and know that you are the one God put in their life to protect them, to raise them, to see Him in eternity. You've been encouraged. Never be complacent.